Welcome back, everybody. Dr. Greg Eckel, What the Health? And this is part 2 with Udo Erasmus. And I have been waiting for this to happen since we ended the last one, Udo. And I'm going to just launch right in here. You had set the stage and the table for us. You started out with the 3 parts of human nature. I know you've got 8 parts in your whole organizational structure here, but we talked awareness and peace, life energy, and inspired purpose. And you really explained that inspired purpose is when we shine unconditional love into the world through service, asking, how can I help? Which was so beautiful. And I'm wondering, maybe our next spot to go with this conversation is really expand more on what you mean by inspired purpose and how people can discover or cultivate their unique inspired purpose.
Okay, so let me back off and just put the foundation under it, and I'll just do it very quickly. So the core of the universal core of human beingness or existence is pure awareness, and its biggest property is peace. Literally a peace that is felt, that is real, that's not a bunch of words, that is just experienced. And it was so beautiful to experience that peace. Within that container of all-encompassing peace is our life, which is energy, which is a fraction of solar energy, which is unconditional love for the body, which is the master of the body, which is our individual essence. We are actually life, not the body. And life's purpose is to, it only has one job. Life is to be omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient in the body, taking care of everything in the body. And that's a big job because there's like 60 trillion cells, and there's 120,000 different chemical reactions that take place every second in every cell. So we're talking about managing something extraordinary, and life manages that, right?
Truly magnificent.
It's extraordinary when you think about it. My God. I can't even get along with myself, and life is managing harmoniously 60 trillion cells, right?
In one human being, right?
Yeah, in one human being.
Yeah.
And then the shine of that unconditional, empowering love of life that flows through our body, the shine of that into the world is what I called inspired purpose. And it's literally unconditional love, which is our essential nature. Like when we actually fully in touch with ourselves, we're not haters. We're not trippers. We're not, amuse yourselfers.
Yeah.
We're unconditional love. So the shine into the world, what can I do? How can I help? What needs to be done? How do I make the biggest splash for good that I can make in the short time that I have here? Right? That's what purpose is. And what's interesting about that purpose, it's not like a head trip where I say, well, let's see, my purpose is, I'd like to make $1 million before I'm 30. Well, that's not possible for me because I'm 81, but right? But, we come up with these ideas.
Yeah.
This is a life purpose. This is a purpose that is already within life. And it comes to expression in addressing what's going on. It could be helping an old lady walk across the lake, walk across the road, right? Today, I had to go out and get my tea. I had to take a detour because there was police all over the place. And there was somebody who was sitting who had climbed over a fence that sort of an overhang over the ocean, which is a little frozen right now because it's pretty cold out. And he was going to jump. So they had 30 police cars, and they were waiting, and they were trying to he was having a bad day, right?
Yeah.
So they were trying to, you can't push him. You want to say, okay, push him. Then he falls in the water. He says, it's too cold. And then you
Yeah.
fish him out, right? Well, they can't do that, right?
Right.
They had the boat there just in case he did jump. So they had the boat in the little harbor. And then they were trying to talk to him and convince him that his life was worth living and that he shouldn't try and destroy his own body, right?
Right.
So I had to go around that. So then I go around it. That's how I could help, just get out of the way and let them do their job, right? Sometimes it's like that, right?
Yeah.
And it can be just simple. You're somebody serving you your tea, and you have a conversation with them about what's important to them, and how their life can be even better than it is. So it's simple stuff, right? But it can also be, well, like we live in a world that's self-destructing because we're so disconnected from that love that we're doing destructive things. And why is that? Because we have ideas in our head about our life that are not true to life, right? So that's why I call it inspired purpose. It's the shine of life into the world. What would you do in the world? Well, life is what makes this planet interesting and beautiful. Life is the treasure. Anything you can do that supports life, that helps life, that makes life a little better, that maybe a little less pain, maybe a little more joy, maybe a little more inspiration, maybe a little less depression, right? Because you can't be depressed and inspired at the same time.
Right.
So inspiration is the cure for depression, not pills. Inspiration. Inspiration, why? Because you're in touch with unconditional love, and that's inspiring. And then just about anything that comes out of your mouth will be inspiring. Like, oh my God, it's just like, I can't believe I have this. I mean, I didn't make myself, This is a gift. I came as a gift, given a gift, right? And so that's the inspired purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That then gets you engaged in a life that keeps you inspired, because when you're helping, it always feels good in the heart. There's no way around it. It's like when you do something for someone that helps them, whether you get paid for it or not, whether they say thank you or not, it just inherently feels good in the heart to do things that are considerate of life, that are kind to life. It just feels good.
How do you think we got so lost or disconnected? Like, I mean, that's a big question, but
yeah, no, it's
because you had this experience today with somebody just really in a mental health crisis of not really, like, thinking the only way out of the suffering was to leave the planet,
destroy the body.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's very simple. When we're in our mother's womb, I don't know if we talked about that last time. I listened to part of it. I hadn't talked about it. Okay, so when we're in our mother's body, there's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. Everything's taken care of, through the umbilical cord and in the, I call it the Buddha tank. The womb is a Buddha tank, right? So there's nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing, everything's taken care of, and it's pretty safe.
Yeah.
Right. So what are we doing in the Buddha tank? We as creatures, right? I mean, it's already alive.
Yeah.
It's not breathing, doesn't have to breathe yet, but it's still alive because the sperm was alive and the egg was alive. They're both alive. They get together, and then this thing grows according to its own genetic program. So it's already a separate, it's a dependent existence, but it's a separate existence from the mother. So here you are in there, and you can't feel much because there's not much gravity. You're floating in a tank, so there's not much to feel and pretty much nothing to see. Maybe a little bit of light flickering, not much to hear. Maybe you hear the voice a little bit or
some humming.
There you will hear a hum because that's the hum of your own life. So there's really, so what's going on? You have no language. You don't know you have a mother. You don't know there's a world out there. You're definitely not thinking about committing suicide because because in a way you don't even know that you're alive. You
Yeah.
don't even know that there is a alive and a not alive, right? So you're hanging out. And so where are you when you're hanging out there? Well, you're hanging out in what we talked about. You're hanging out in the unconditional love that life has for your body. So you're in that. You are that, and you're in it, and you are that. And you're in complete peace. So you because your focus, and that's the issue, right? Where's the focus? Between suicide as a focus and love as a focus. That's just a shift in focus. Okay. So where's your focus in the Buddha tank? Well, in the Buddha tank, your focus is, since there's no place to go, it's at rest inside, in its source, in life, and in awareness. And so you're just hanging out in the core of your own existence. And you're like a little yogi. No, not a little yogi. You're like a great master yogi, completely immersed in deep meditation for the 9 months or however long you spend there. And you could say, if you look at it now and from all of your distractions, you say, oh my God, that must be the most unbelievably boring place you could ever have to spend time in. But you're not bored. See, because you haven't become addicted to thoughts and ideas and things and stuff and doing. You haven't been addicted to that yet. You're just hanging out in your own nature, which is incredibly beautiful, right? So just hanging out. Okay, so you spend 9 months there. You're a yogi who doesn't even know it's possible to be outside of yoga, right? You don't even know that.
Right.
So you're just immersed in this like divinity, you could call it that, right? And then you get kicked out.
That's a rude awakening.
Right? So then you get kicked out and everything changes.
Yeah.
The lights are too bright, there's too much noise. You cry when you come out because this is like, what the hell are you doing to me here, right? I mean, you're not saying that because you don't have the words, but it's intense, it's uncomfortable, right? And now, because everything isn't taken care of anymore, you have to get to know the world that you live in for survival, because you're now focused on survival of the body, which you didn't have to be before. And so you have to get to know the world, and that is facilitated by your senses taking your focus outward to change, whether it's change in sound or change in light or change in feeling. So your senses take your focus out to change, because you have to now learn, is this friend to approach? Is this foe to run from? Or is it irrelevant noise to ignore? And so gradually, as soon as you're born, that process begins. And it happens automatically. We're wired that way.
Yeah.
That our focus is drawn outward from ourselves into change in the environment. And then we learn what the changes mean, and then we learn how to negotiate those changes and how to deal with it. And then we cry for our milk, and we cry for a diaper change, and we cry for cold, to get warm, and we cry for comfort, right? And pretty soon they're saying, use your words, use your words, use your words. And then we learn the language, right? So that becomes more of a learning thing, right? And in this process, we go from being present inside, absent outside. Now gradually we become more and more present outside and absent inside. So we've become, so why do we get, your question, why do we get in a crazy place like that? Is because we lost our connection to the peace and the unconditional love that is our nature. We lost our focus on that inner focus, on that inner nature.
Yeah.
And it drifted out into the world. And in the world, what do you got? Well, you got everything in the outside world. You get, people who have ideas because they got disconnected when they were born, from parents who got disconnected when they were born, from grandparents who got disconnected when they were born, all the way back 200,000 years,
Yeah.
however long it is that human
Right.
beings have been on the planet. So then we learn all of that stuff, and a huge amount of what we learn in culture, in religion, in nationality, in language, in, a lot of it is BS. A
It
lot of it is BS.
it really
And
is.
I'll give you just one example. People say if you don't study history, you're bound to repeat it.
Right.
You could make just as easily a case for, if you study history, you normalize bad behavior. You say, oh, people are just like that. And people say that, right? Well, why is there war? Well, it's part of human nature. No, it's not. It's actually an aberration
Yeah.
that comes from a departure of human nature, where we stick ideas in our head that aren't even true.
Yeah.
And then we make those ideas more important than life, and then we go and fight and kill and get killed for ideas that aren't even true to life.
Yeah.
So a lot of, if you look at what the belief systems, there's a lot in our belief system that is completely out of line, and a lot of it has control agendas of various institutions behind it. And then we learn that, and then we kind of accommodate those institutions, and then we live lives that are not natural, but are cultural or religious or
Right.
national or belief-based.
Yeah.
And before I was talking about experience, knowledge, self-knowledge, right? The peace is known because you feel it. The love is felt. It's real. It's not like I have an idea about love is when. Love is when you do it my way.
Right.
And if you don't do it my way, I will make sure that you don't feel loved. That's not love. All right.
That's
Love
not
is
right.
love is an part of essential nature. Okay. So that's how we got lost. And what's interesting is getting out and getting disconnected is automatic. That's part of living. Coming back home is not automatic. That has to be done deliberately. Now we have some help, just as like hunger makes food important, and thirst makes water important, and having to go to the bathroom makes going to the bathroom important.
Yeah.
Heartache, the feeling of disconnection from the love we are, from the peace we are. Heartache makes stillness practice relevant. But we're not told that. Everybody has heartache. I have never met anybody who didn't know what heartache is.
Yeah.
But we have tons of different words for it. And those words come from what triggered it. So my girlfriend dumped me. Heartache. Right?
Yeah.
So my girlfriend dumped me is the trigger for the heartache, but the heartache is not the trigger is not the cause of heartache.
Right.
The cause of heartache is my original disconnection from myself. And I was hoping that the lover would connect me.
Feel that. Yeah.
And then she did, and then she didn't.
Right.
Right. Or, I thought if I got it in my head that if I made $1 million, somehow I'll feel okay again. And then I worked my butt off. I made this thing. And after 20 years of working my butt off, I succeeded in making $1 million. And when I hit that mark, that goal, right? $1 million is 3 days of, I did it. And the next day, is that all?
Yeah, back to that emptiness.
Yeah, because nothing on the outside can connect you to what you have to connect to on the inside, because that love is still there and that peace is still there and it will always be there. But your focus wandering around everywhere else in your head and in the environment and in our, all of our plans and all of that stuff. Yeah. None of that will get you. You get the 3 days of yay, I'm impressed with myself. But the heartache is actually in its essence, heartache is the call of life for your focus to come back inside, to come back home, to where your wholeness is, where your fulfillment is, where your peace is, where your love is, where your unconditional, empowered, feeling amazing
Mm,
always is waiting. And
yeah.
it's just waiting for the focus to come home, because the peace won't chase you out into the world. Your peace won't chase your focus. Your focus has to return,
Yeah.
right?
It is an inside job. It's an inside job.
100% inside
Yeah.
job. Yeah.
All right. Well,
So does that answer your question?
it totally does. It
Yeah, yeah,
totally does. And I want to make sure when we're talking about your concept of total sacred health as
yeah,
well,
yeah,
there's a couple other components, and I think you touched on
yeah,
some of them, but maybe you can put
yeah,
those in as you talked about us developing in the womb and being in that oneness and
yeah,
no concept of separation.
yeah,
We have a couple other components of physical body and
yeah, yeah,
survival smarts and
yeah,
social group,
yeah,
natural environment, and infinite awareness to kind of
yeah,
package this together for folks.
yeah. So number one is the peace
Yeah.
in the core. Number two is the love that is life. Number three is, you could call it positive mind, even, is the inspired creativity. Now, these are all inside.
Yeah.
And these are the three things that are most neglected in the world. They're the most important because they're most basic for your existence. They're the most neglected at the same time. Okay. Number four is a physical body, right? What is that? Well, it's made for activity on a physical plane, for physical activity, and it's made out of food, water, and air. Okay. It comes out of nature. That's what we usually, when we talk about health, we're talking about the body. So it's exercise and eating right, right? But actually, health is, if you want to take the total definition of health, health is the result of living in line with nature and your own nature, in line with nature and your nature. So what does that mean? Well, if you're going to look at what's the body made of, food, water, and air. Well, in nature, health, physical health, was invented by life in nature. So every creature that eats its food fresh, whole, raw, organic. If you're human, probably mostly plant-based, because there was a time when the hunters only had rocks to hunt with. And when you only have rocks to hunt with, we tried that as teenagers when I lived on a farm without electricity, you usually come home without meat.
Yeah.
So when you don't have no meat, you eat vegetables, because they don't run away, they don't fight back, they're easy to hunt down and kill, right? So fresh, whole, raw, organic. And you can't be healthy if you live out of line with nature. That's why drugs are a really stupid idea.
Yeah.
They can give you some relief, pain relief sometimes, and maybe short term that may be helpful, until you find out what in nature are you off of that you need to put back in place to get the pain to go away, right? Crisis intervention, life support systems, so there's a place for that, but it's not healthcare. We call it healthcare. It's actually disease management.
Yeah.
It's actually being misrepresented to everybody because people want health.
Yeah.
And even normal people who aren't sophisticated, they know that health is a better word than disease. So to call it disease management, hi, we're here to provide you with disease management. No, we're not going to make you healthy. No, we're not giving you health care. We're going to just manage your disease. I think people would start looking around and say, gee, where can I get some real health care? So they call it health care.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And so, but these are all molecules that never existed in nature, that are unnatural molecules. Why would you put unnatural molecules into your body when your body was made in nature with all natural molecules?
Yeah.
And if you have an infection, why wouldn't you go to the plants that have to deal with the same viruses and funguses and bacteria, and have made molecules it's called the pharmacy, F-A-R-M, right? Pharmacy,
Right.
right? Have made molecules to protect themselves. And when you eat them in their natural state, you get the protection for your body that they made for themselves.
Mm,
How cool is that?
that is pretty
Right?
awesome.
Now, we got out of line with that and we started eating white sugar and white flour and, processed foods and fried foods, where you actually in frying, you change natural molecules to unnatural molecules. You really make them toxic. Life never made a program to break them down because they never existed in nature in foods like that. Right. And
Yeah.
then, so why would you do that? Other than you can patent these unnatural molecules and then you can make obscene profits on them. And the whole system is run not to make you healthy, but to make somebody else a ton of money.
Okay. Super lucrative. And, it hit me probably 5 years ago. I was sitting in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, my hometown, at a place called Eaton Park. It's all you can eat buffet. And I looked around, I had my kids and my aunt, and I looked around and I was like, wow, there is just people are eating a ton of food, but it wasn't real food. And they were obese, they were on drugs, pharmaceutical medications. And it hit me like, wow, we're treating people like products and we're trying to keep them alive long enough to sell them more drugs. But there wasn't a thrive quality. There wasn't this excitement. There wasn't the energy. There wasn't the heart. The heart of the matter was gone.
Gee, it sounds like you're talking about every nation on the planet.
Yeah.
Except the really, really poor people who still live in line with nature.
Yeah. And they have a happy quotient in those countries where we look at it from our first world picture saying, oh, but they don't have anything. It's like, no, they have life. Like they've got it all.
Yeah. When I came, when we came out of the Second World War, I was born during the Second World War. We lost the farm, we lost the house, we lost the community, we lost the stability, we lost the friends, we lost the dishes and the furniture, and we literally lost everything except we had the body and we had the life. So we had what's within the body. We didn't have any of the stuff that we like to depend on the outside. What a gift that was. I mean, I didn't like it when it happened, but what a gift in retrospect. What a gift it was, because it showed me how little I need. And it showed me what's really important. And we're almost like we're working our way towards this happening worldwide. Because if we don't learn from wisdom, then we'll be stupid. What does it say? William Blake said, if the fool persists in his folly, he will become wise. Yeah, because he's going to crash, right?
Right.
He's going to crash and he's going to get an enormous amount of pain. And out of that pain, and when he loses it, like the lockdowns,
Yeah.
What do you mean I can't travel? I have a right to travel. I'm entitled.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you know how to go into the place where your life really is, then you can say, like, that's what I did. It didn't bother me at all. I said, well, if you can't go outside, go inside.
Yes.
Right. Inside is where
all. It was
the
actually a great awakening that way for many people on the planet.
For a lot of people.
Hey, really, let's get our priorities in order and what matters here. Of course, losing liberties and sovereignty is, people fought their lives for those freedoms, and I don't think they should be just given away lightly. However, it did really turn people in on themselves to say, well, do I like the character that's in here? Like, am I okay with who's in here?
But let me say something about freedom, and then we'll get back on track. But
perfect.
I live in Canada, the true north, strong and free, right? And you guys live in what is it? The home of the brave? The land of the brave and the home of the free. No, the home of the the land of the free and the home of the brave. I think
That's it.
I got it right this time, right?
Got it.
So you got to ask, well, what is freedom? You know, some people say, well, freedom is when I do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whomever I want. That's not freedom. That's license. What we want is we want to be able to do whatever we want to do and it not have consequences. I have really bad news for you. Everything you do has consequences. So you can't get, and then what are you really free about? You have to pay taxes. That's not freedom, right? You can't just, you can't just let your dog poo in your neighbor's yard. That's not freedom, right? You can't just go down the street and you don't like the way somebody looks and slap his face. You can't do that. That's not freedom, right? So you start looking at, well, what actual freedoms do you have? There's only one. You have the freedom to decide where your focus goes. That's it. And even that is limited because you may not know all the possibilities for where your focus could go. And education is about expanding your horizons for possibilities so that you actually have more freedom for more things that you could focus on and decide what you want to focus on. That's the only freedom you have. You can't just float around, without helium balloons, right? You know what I mean? It's like, it's like gravity keeps pulling me down. I can't just defy gravity because I want to be free of gravity. You can't, right? It's like
when I bring it up, I really talk about around, some rights around, clean air, clean water, clean food.
You don't even have that. You don't even have that choice because
That's
the
what I'm
industry is
saying.
polluting your air.
Yeah, but that's what you could put into action around being free.
Yeah, well, yeah, but yeah. Anyway,
Yes.
so and what we, so the freedom, I think we also use it as independence, which means not depending on you, me not depending on you. That's freedom. No, it's not.
I really put it in a sovereign component. I link that to sovereignty of self.
Yeah, I understand.
You choose what goes in your body.
King of the castle. Yeah.
About.
Yeah. King of the castle. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But mostly.
Yeah.
So what I think we're not looking for independence of other things. What we really need is independence, which means dependence on what's within us.
Yeah.
Then we get it right.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I feel content and cared for, I don't want to slap that lady whose looks I don't like, right? Because that always comes out of discontent. When I get disconnected from myself, the disconnection leads to discontent. The discontent leads to destructive thoughts, and then words, and then behavior, and then consequences. And wherever things aren't working, that's what we've done. We've disconnected from our independence. And all the wise teachers said, kingdom of heaven's within you, seek first the kingdom, and then everything else will fall into place for you. Yeah, because when I feel cared for, it's okay. The world is okay the way it is. I can live in the world with its limitations, except, we could want to argue about some of the man-made limitations.
Yeah.
Because where we're talking about sovereignty is because we want to get away from the limits that other people have imposed on us. Because who are they to impose it on us? The master lives within me. The master lives within them. We're equals. Doesn't matter how many titles the king has. He dies in the same death I do.
Yeah.
Death is the great equalizer. Yes, king goes there too, right?
Right.
So I'm not against the looking at those issues, but they need to be founded on what's really true about being a human being. And that's why independence is actually more useful than freedom, unless you mean independence when you use the word freedom.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
So anyway, we're on number 4, which is the body made out of food, made for activity. If there's nothing to do, you don't need a body. Then you could be a disembodied spirit floating around, whatever that would be, right? And fundamentally, everything on the physical level has to do with getting the 42 building blocks into the body called essential nutrients, making sure digestion works so you get all the building blocks and you don't create toxicity, and avoiding toxins and detoxing when you can't avoid them. So that's for the physical. And then activity, there are 4 pieces. One is weight bearing, that's good for bones and muscles. One is stretching, that's good for limber. One is cardio, running, stuff like that. So that gives you stamina. And then the 4th one is called counter strain, where you get across joints and you actually squeeze them together because that releases tension. So those are the 4 parts, and then you have chiropractic. And I mean, there are lots of different disciplines that deal with those 2 issues. But it's always made out of food, water, and air, made for activity. And that's now, but we're in the temporary zone because the body is a terminal condition.
Right.
The moment, the moment you're conceived, there's going to be a checkout date. And that's a fact. There's no way around it. And people are talking, oh no, we can do these manipulations, biochemical manipulations, and then we're going to be able to live forever. Somebody's making good money on the pipe dream because everybody wants to live forever because they don't feel like they don't feel like they haven't lived enough yet because they haven't found their way home yet. Right?
Yeah.
And but anything that has form will lose its form. I think that's one of the laws of thermodynamics. Anything that is created will be destroyed. The only thing that will not be destroyed is what was not created. Peace was not created, and the unconditional love, energy can change form, but it can't be created or destroyed. So energy is immortal, and peace is immortal. Awareness is immortal. Body is mortal. No matter how well you treat it, there is a checkout date. So I say to people, well, why do you eat when you know you're going to check out one day? Well, I want to die healthy. so that's my joke about that, right?
I like it. You got me laughing on that one.
And most of what we talk about when it comes to the body, that's usually what we focus on when we talk about health. But the truth is that the love and the peace play enormous roles in health. And life, the unconditional empowering love that is your individual nature, is perfect health and never dies. So if you saw yourself, if you were focused on the part of you that never dies, it would make living on the planet a lot less stressful because you're not always in stress mode. Oh my God, is that going to kill me?
Yeah.
Because you're going to kill. So you might as well thrive instead of just surviving.
Right.
But being focused on what never dies instead of trying to save your body by running from this, fighting and doing all of that stuff. And then you get out of survival mode, then you also you find your sovereignty and your independence, and you become a lot harder to control.
Yeah.
Because you actually know for yourself. You don't need somebody else to tell you. And
So
you
that's
don't need
true
somebody.
freedom. That is true freedom.
Yeah, freedom. If freedom,
That's it.
if by freedom you mean independence,
Yeah.
100%.
You found that deep peace and love in your eternal essence.
Yeah.
That truly is freedom.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. There you go. Independent.
Yeah.
And whatever you call that, it's sovereignty too. It's independence too. It's leadership too, because life is the leader in every human being. Life runs the show, right? We actually all follow the same leader, but there's some people who have said, no, I'm the leader. I'm the leader. I live in DC. I live in Ottawa, wherever you live, right?
Yeah.
And let me tell you what you should be doing with your life. You can't even manage your own life, and you're telling me how I should manage mine. No. I'm going to ask life how I should live my life, and every human being can. And they're then following the same leader because the life is the same solar energy fraction in every human being. Mm-hmm. How is that for a New World Order. But this one based
Well,
on
that's the true world order,
that's
Udo.
right. Exactly. Yeah, it's not the new one. It's the true world order, because the
Right.
truth is life has been running the show forever.
And it seems I hope what folks get out of this conversation is that is the truth. Like, you kind of posed a question, what do you know? And I think that the art of contemplation is we don't do enough of it, right? We're always like, oh, I've got these smartphones, or let me just get on the internet and find the answer. It's like, no, what actually do you know internally? And coming back and just sitting in the heart and listening, that deep presence and peace that you're talking about, and the
Yep.
energy is there. So
Yep.
we do need a good physical body to do it, right? So
And
that's, yeah,
life knows everything about you.
yeah,
Omniscient, all knowing, because it's running that whole show.
yeah.
60 trillion cells,
Which is just
100,000.
mind-boggling, right? You can't quite comprehend it. When you get into
Totally.
that discussion, it's like, my brain just goes, okay, I
Yeah.
surrender.
But yeah, exactly. But it's just like, I can't figure it out. How
Yeah,
can something run 100,000 chemical reactions 60 trillion times every second? That's incomprehensible. But you know what? I can trust that.
yeah,
Oh my God. Oh my God. I can actually trust life to have my interest at heart, to be there for me unconditionally, 24/7, 365, lifelong. How cool
And
is
and
that?
so many people are stuck not in when I ask folks, like, do you feel like the universe is supporting you or is it against you? Like a lot of people are stuck in trauma or past stories or beliefs where they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And maybe they've got great evidence for that. So how do you go about that with
Okay,
folks to get
beautiful.
back to that trust?
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so my trauma, and there's different traumas for different people, and it's a situation you didn't know how to deal with, and it kind of overwhelmed you. Okay, so my trauma was I was born in the Second World War, right? Bullets flying. I was 2 years old.
Massive. Yeah.
I got left behind. We lost everything except the shirts on our backs, and the life inside, right? And for until I was 26, I complained about it a lot, even though the war ended when I was 3, right? But I complained about it. There was no war. I was making the war. I was bringing it. I was making it real. Every
Yeah.
time I talked about it, I
Right.
made it real again,
Yeah.
right? 26 years. So it's like 23 years. There was no war, and I was bringing it back
Yeah.
into my focus, right? And then one day I realized, oh my God, all this time through all my dramas and all my traumas, something took perfect care of me through all of it. How do I know? Because if I hadn't taken care of me, I wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh my God, it's taken such good care of me. I have never acknowledged it. I have never tried to get to know it. And I've never tried to become friends with it, even though it's been the best friend. And that was a big turnaround for me. I said, you know what? I actually want to get to know that part of me that took care of me through all my dramas and all my traumas. And that part was right next to my trauma was in here as a memory, right?
Yeah.
Once it was maybe over my body because it was an experience. Then it was a memory. And that unconditional love that's taking care of me is always taking care of me, took care of me through the real trauma, and through all while I have memories of trauma, it's taking care of me. And I literally have a choice. I can focus on the trauma or the memory of trauma, or I can focus on my breathing, or I can focus on something that's not in my head as a memory, that is just presence of life inside. They live together within us all the time. So literally we have choices. But if I don't know how to go there, then it doesn't seem like I have a choice. So it's one of the reasons why it's so important that we take this heartache and this confusion that we have and say, I need to spend time in stillness, voluntary solitude, by myself, discovering this incredible friend that I have called life inside me, peace inside me, that is there anytime I turn to it. And then we start having some choice. So when I started doing that, I cried probably every day for about 6 months.
Ooh.
And I didn't have like memories associated with it. It was just tensions. Tensions, maybe uncried tears that I never cried because, there wasn't time to cry because we had to run or whatever it was, right?
Right.
And after about 6 months, the tears were gone.
Hmm.
And the relief and the relaxation and the calmness and the peace, they've just gotten deeper and deeper. I've been doing it now for 50 years.
Wow.
So I'm very clear. So how do you deal with all of that? You got to start by understanding something in you was not affected by any of your dramas and your traumas. Find that place, cultivate that place, spend more time focused on that place, build that, so that you're not living your life as a reaction to a memory of trauma, but you live your life from life for life. That's when that's when you're healed. That's when you're healed. That's when you're whole again. Right?
Love
and
it.
then you can let it, and then you can say, yeah, it's a memory. Yeah, it shouldn't have happened, but the emotion goes out of it because you're now in a place. Oh my God, how incredible it is. I was taken care of the whole time. Right? So that's that's easier said than done, but it's doable.
Yeah.
How do I know it? Because I've done it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, you know it.
And anybody can do it.
I love it.
So number 5
Yeah.
is survival smarts. That's the protective part of mind. And basically, that's the part that deals with your physical body, with your survival things, right? And fundamentally, how does that work? Well, because you live on a planet where there are 8 billion people, some of them who would rather you weren't alive, right? And you're living with you're here, and you're food for viruses, bacteria, and funguses. And maybe if you go walking in the woods and you don't have a stick with you, maybe there might be a bear who would like to make lunch of you, to feed its cubs or whatever. So because we live in an environment, it's basically 99% good for us and 1% dangerous. So because there's some danger in nature, we need survival skills. Yeah. And there are 2 things we need. One is we need to be in our power. So we're not living in fear, but we're living in some confidence. The confidence comes with the experience of peace and love. Okay. And we need to learn some skills that are predictable for things that happen. If you're in an earthquake zone, you want to do some certain protection. If you live in a flood zone or a tidal wave zone, you don't build under the tidal line, right? And if your winters are cold, you want to make sure you have warm clothing and a shelter that you can keep warm while it's -40 outside, right? So there are some skills involved in that, and between the courage and the skills, you can deal with most of those. Now, we're not living in caves anymore, and we're not running around naked anymore. So we've done a lot of that, and a lot of our inventions over the years have been survival skill inventions. Yeah. Amazing inventions. Nobody knows who invented the glass that makes windows, or the fiberglass stuffing in your walls, or whatever it is you're doing, right? Yeah. And nobody knows who invented cement, I don't think. But there are people over the ages that have had brilliant ideas that we now take for granted. But there was a time when those didn't exist, and we invented those. That's the survival smarts at work.
Got it.
Then after that, we're talking about social group. Well, social group affects your health. So how do you deal with social group? Well, you want to find people who are independent, in the sense that I use the word.
Yes.
Who have peace and love and are willing to help because they've done their homework. You want to hang out with people who've done their homework, because they will encourage you to do yours. They'll remind you to do yours. and they might just not hang out with you if you don't do your homework. But it's nice to be with them, so that's just another incentive to do your homework.
Indeed.
Right? And then what is that for? Well, there are projects that I have that are bigger than I am, so they're going to involve other people.
Yeah.
And then we can have adventure, and we can laugh together, and we can play, and we can make babies with some of them. And you know what?
Right.
So we have social group as one of the issues, right?
Yeah.
And I think the most important issue there is, how do you maintain your uniqueness under social pressure to conform? And so you want to find, if you join groups, you want to join groups who don't have as a rule that you can't be who you are. Right? Because some people do that. You join the group, you give up, you can't swear.
You can't
Let's
be
say
you, right?
Yeah, you can't swear like when you feel like it, or it's a stupid one, but or you always have to wear long pants,
right?
Or you have to be fully dressed because it's classy, right? When you would be just as cool in jeans, actually, so you have to look at what kinds of things are you willing to give up, and you do not want to give up your authenticity. If a club requires you to give up your authenticity, find a different club.
Yeah.
And I would rather be by myself than be told how I should live my life.
Yep.
And I'm thoughtful because I'm a bit of a rebel child too, right? So I'm thoughtful because when you're a rebel, you have to be smart too. Otherwise, you get yourself in a ton of trouble that you don't really want.
Right.
So be a little bit of a rebel, but be thoughtful, and and let other people. Don't impose your stuff, your authenticity. What you think is authentic. Don't impose that on other people.
Right. Yeah.
Don't tell other people how they should be. Enjoy them for their uniqueness. Yeah. Don't shoot on me.
Yeah. Don't shoot on me.
Don't be a shooter. Yeah. So that's number 6. Then number 7 is the natural environment. It's 99% resources and 1% danger. So you want to have respect for it, but more than anything, gratitude, because what are you getting? You're getting air, you're getting water, you're getting soil, you're getting microbes, you're getting plants, you're getting animals, you're getting other people, you're getting all your foods, you get your building materials, you get your things to make clothing and shelter. And that's all given freely, even though there are human groups who have claimed ownership of it, like the government claims ownership of the land and then sells you back land that actually was made by the solar system.
Yeah.
Right. And
that's
then these are the same guys who want to impose other things on you, and then they live off of your efforts, because that's what your taxes are, your effort you give to them. You're not free not to pay them. They're not tied to performance, right? If your government can screw up royally and you still have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Where's the that's like, they're not accountable. And that's why they're not accountable. Because the system is, and we've allowed that to happen. Like before 1910, there was no income tax. You know that?
No.
There was no income tax before 1910. And then it was like, then they came in for the First World War, and then they said, well, after the First World War, we're going to reverse it. And then when the war was over, by that time they'd figured out windfall.
Right.
So they never reversed it.
Right.
So they never reversed it. So we've been paying taxes ever since. But it was only 1910, 1913, something like that. Right. And so the natural environment is mostly for you, because the sun, that's part of it, enlivens you. The sun enlivens all the other creatures that you eat, right? It creates the weather and the wind patterns and the rain and all of that. So that's all given. Those are gifts of nature. So I would say respect and gratitude, 90%, 99% gratitude and 1% respect.
Nice.
But you got to give it its due, and going
Yeah.
out for walks in nature is very good for health, and making sure that you take from the environment what you need, but you return what you don't need to the environment, and you live sustainably. That's all. Uh, I every breath I take in, I say thank you, because plants made that oxygen for me.
Yeah.
Every breath I take out, I say you're welcome, because I'm making the carbon dioxide that plants need to grow. And in fact, we shouldn't be worrying about carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We should plant the trees we knocked off, because we
I
had 10
totally
trillion.
agree.
We had 10 trillion trees. We knocked off 7.5 trillion. So we got a quarter of the trees.
Yeah.
And we're worried about carbon dioxide. If you plant the trees back, there will be no problem with carbon dioxide. Right?
Yeah, that's a simple solution that nobody really is talking about.
Yeah, well, we're talking about it.
I know, and I like it because I have a saying, I love to watch the trees breathe, right? So that to find my inner peace and that deep calm, I will watch the trees respirate, and understanding that they're producing the oxygen that we live on. It's really, they are
even poison ivy produces oxygen for
amazing.
you.
Yes,
Even the
amazing.
weeds that you want to kill, all of them, right?
Right.
They all produce oxygen for you. So you ought to have some respect for that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, probably in the environment, we should use water more wisely, because we're dumping it in the ocean, because there's a lot of it in some places. But in the middle of the continents, they're drying out and the water tables are going down, because we're taking out more than we're putting back. And that also has to do with the trees to some extent, because trees make the summers cooler and the winters warmer.
Yeah.
So we need to manage water more effectively. That would be the second thing. And then the third thing is, we take 20 minerals off the soil as food, and then the remnants go in the toilet, and the toilet gets flushed in the ocean. So our topsoil, we're taking our topsoil off the land and dumping it in the ocean. And we probably should be taking the wastes and recycling them. You have to cook them first, not on your stove. But so we should be eating food raw and cooking the wastes to kill the microbes that can be a problem.
Sure.
And then put it back on the land. So those are probably the three most important things. And then the other one is just appreciate. Appreciate. Nature wasn't just here for your
pillaging.
For your pillaging.
Right.
Right. But for your particular agenda.
Yeah.
Nature is much bigger than that. So have some appreciation for the fact that you're a small part of a very big system, and we are interdependent. There's reciprocity in that system.
And quite a bit of abundance, right? I think we've been kind of programmed into a scarcity mindset, but the system, all of the energy is here. And if we change our viewpoints of there's not enough, and actually look abundantly with gratitude, with love, with appreciation, with understanding of natural rhythms, it really could be a lot different, right?
Yeah. So I just made up something in my head when you said that.
Yeah.
So between not enough and too much, because we're always complaining about one or the other, in between not enough and too much, there's a point in the middle called appreciation. Right?
Beautiful.
And so we don't have too much carbon dioxide. We don't have enough appreciation.
Yeah.
For what there is and where we fit into that. Because we just make up this stuff, too much carbon dioxide, global warming, and we're not doing what, we're not straightening out what we've done.
Right. Yeah. If that, truly,
we're then doing more.
We haven't done it further and further. And, it makes me think, I know on a soul level, heart level, more technology is not going to get us out of this.
Nope.
It's not, more resources, utilizing, even I used to think, I studied environmental studies as an undergrad, and I thought, going paperless for more technology, computers and more minerals. It's labor, it's energy intensive. Like, has anybody done the equation to say that there's more resources used with paper? I mean, we could go to hemp, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
That I've seen lots of writing about hemp and
Yeah.
bringing that back on. So I love that. You know, I think we should have the campaign for planting more trees. That's and deep appreciation for nature.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
where we are.
Yep.
Wait,
Okay,
well,
so
so
that's number 7.
that
There's
leads
one
right
more.
into your number 8. Yes.
Number 8 is the big picture. Number 8 is infinite awareness. So what is this? So it's basically coming to terms with the fact that we are living in a terminal condition. You know, we are we are indestructible health, living in a temporary house in an infinite universe. And to be okay with that. You know, it's okay that one day I'm going to leave. I mean, it's okay. Sorry. It's okay that one day my body will get recycled.
Yeah.
Because it's just made out of stuff, right? And that's being recycled, you know, recycled. Like I'm made out of tomatoes, and I'm made out of bananas, and I'm made out of seeds and nuts, and I'm made out of broccoli, and I'm made out of, you know, all the things that I eat, right?
I'd put oils in there, Udo. Come on.
I put some, let me put, I use my oil. I eat tahini. I put my oil in tahini. And, you know, so I'm made out of things that came out of the soil. And when my body finishes, then the body goes back in the ground. And then it's recycled, and maybe some tomatoes are going to grow on my ashes. And so then the next guy who eats a tomato is actually eating part of my body. Is that okay? Sure, because it's being right. Yeah. That's the whole thing is like that, right?
Yep.
You know, the tree grows, then the leaves fall down, and then the leaves ferment, and then they return to the soil. And the tree is pulling out the return, and more leaves grow, and there's a cycle. There's a whole ecocycle, a whole ecosystem in the tree.
Yeah.
Made by its own leaves, by its own body, recycled by bacteria, and then turning into tree again. Right? And that's what that system looks like. And then eventually it kicks out, and then a new tree grows. And, you know, so the body's always being recycled. In fact, 98% of the atoms in my body today will have been removed and replaced if you and I get together 1 year from now. 98%.
Wow. 98% of you.
If I drink the amount of water I'm supposed to drink, every year I drink 15 times my body's volume of water.
Wow.
15 times.
Yeah.
So 98%, and they're all recycled, like the different nutrients, you know, magnesium and calcium and vitamin C and zinc, and they're all recycled through the body at different rates, but they're all recycled. Even the life energy is a flow through the body. So you're never the same person one moment after the
moment
next.
to moment. I know. And we gotta step into life like that.
Yeah.
It's new
So you
every moment.
So your whole life that you think should be stable is actually just a focus through which a universe passes. Right. And then
it reminds me of the statement in Chinese medicine is you are the universe is in you. It's a truism.
Yeah. Well, it's also through the love and the peace.
Yeah.
Right? They're just like the peace that has its center in you goes out to infinity. It's not limited to the dimensions of your body. And you're a center of, and you're a center of that, and I'm a center of that, and every point in space is a center of that, and it has no outside dimensions.
That term infinity, I got really intimately aware of it. And, you know, when you really get in that they're not messing around with that. It's forever forward, forever back. It's infinity.
Yeah, in all directions.
In all directions.
In all directions.
Yeah. It's totally beautiful. Well,
yeah.
let's bring this train into the station here.
Yeah.
It's been so fascinating, and I so enjoyed even part 2. Any last closing message for our viewers and listeners?
So the point is, and I think the masters, in my opinion, were teachers of human nature. All the masters, Buddha, Christ, Jesus, all those guys, they were teachers of human nature because nobody else teaches human nature.
Mhm.
And they told us to get present in the space our body occupies. That's where you would find out about human nature because it's in you, right? Because you're it, right? And they basically, and then you do that and you live in you. So there's you in your human nature living in your surroundings. And if you can be fully present in all of your being and your surroundings and not get lost in your head, you will have the most incredible life, which is like the life of the masters, because that was their mastery. And again, 8 billion people were made in that mold. 8 billion people. Every human being could live in self-mastery. And guess how would that change the planet?
Ooh.
That's what everybody's hoping, waiting, praying for.
Yes.
And you're already sitting in it, and you need to come home and realize it and make it real for yourself.
Oh, thank you, Udo.
And the next time we'll talk about oils.
I love it.
Okay.
I love it. Everybody, wow. Thank you, Udo. If you enjoyed the show, go out there, give us a 5-star review and put a little tidbit. There's so much in this interview. I want to know what really rung your bell. What woke you up? What did you get excited about or passionate about, or what resonated with you? Put it in the comments and let's get some conversation going. Udo, thank you so much. You delivered.
Thank you.
Much love to you.
Thank you. Thank you.